Welcome to Get and Keep Biz. My name is Tim McMahon, and we're going to take you through insight-driven decisions today in this little session. Insight is the capacity to gain an accurate and deep, intuitive understanding of a person, thing, or phenomenon. We will investigate two areas of insight critical to development of successful marketing: the market insight and the customer insight. But first, customers don't buy products or services. They pull them into their lives to make progress. That comes from Clayton Christensen, a guy that's famous for disruption. Christensen calls this the job consumers are trying to get done. They essentially hire a product or service to do the job. Central to this is the circumstance or the context that one finds himself in. This could be who they're with, where they're going, what they're doing. What is it that they want to make progress on at the moment? McDonald's learned a very interesting insight when they began to ask questions. Why do consumers hire a milkshake? They observed milkshake purchases throughout the chain, and they discovered a surprising number of milkshakes were sold before 9 a.m., not purchased with food, and consumed alone and in the car behind the wheel. As they spoke to consumers, they learned the answer that people hired a milkshake was simply to lessen the long and boring commute. So, market insights help the firm determine what part of the market to address. By generating insight into the nature of the market, success is more predictable. These insights stem from understanding market demand, market participants, the relationships and forces that exist and serve to shape markets over time. That's a long-winded definition, and you'll have a chance to study it further. But essentially what we're attempting to get to is that market insights are hard to come by, but very important in terms of driving the activities of our firm. Remember this little form. This is the market as we see. This is the structure that we discovered in previous lessons. And what we're trying to do is understand which approach to take sometimes based on the market. What does the market deliver to us? Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Essentially, then we look at three different areas, two of them being market insight and customer insights, the things we'll talk about today, and the third being this competitor, company, collaborator, complementer thing, this context issue that we have kind of permeated our lessons with since we started this course. So market insights stem from a number of areas, including the structure of the market and product evolution, those wonderful things called industry forces that Michael Porter told us all about, and it's also the environmental forces, a fairly new kind of a phenomenon. While we provide a guideline here, the challenge is for the firm to develop a keen feel for the market and its nuances. How is the market changing becomes very important because marketing plans are not static. They change. They're dynamic. They happen over time, and certain other influences are introduced to the market that disrupt and change the normal flow of goods and services. So we try to look at a couple of things and remember this simple tip that the firm must understand the current and future nature of markets, not just what we're in, but what we could be in. That's a little bit of a crystal ball. Two good things will come out of this is A, be mindful of the current state of things that are happening. Secondly, what is happening in the market. And then the big component is how do we do this? Well, we do this by updating the SWOT. The SWOT is that simple thing we talked about before: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it requires a little bit of devoted time toward analyzing and understanding what is going on. So the second thing that we look at, know what the trends are, because the trends are going to shape our market. It's the how. This relies on a crystal ball and a good read of emerging ideas. So we have a very important thing in understanding that we need tools to help us get there. This is kind of a trend line report that'll show us the way markets evolve over time and certain things that occur that change and shape market activity. So let's look at market structure for a second here, a source of market insight. Markets are comprised of customers, people, and organizations who require products and services to satisfy their needs. Basic customer needs like Maslow's food, clothing, shelter are enduring. And many offerings satisfy these needs. This can be rather commoditized if we're not really mindful. Some needs like entertainment tend to be more transitory. Think about the fact that we used to rent videos from Blockbuster, and that's not even a concept anymore. So we think about this in terms of looking at the nature of the market, the processes for exchanging offerings. That's the market issue. The second big component that we try to look at is this idea of products serving the market. In other words, what do we do to satisfy those things? We find it useful to categorize these product offerings, such as the product class, the product form, the product line, and product item. This helps us identify opportunities and or emerging competitors. For example, in the entertainment, there's this product class, a subset of needs, movies, live music, etc. And the product form is movies, comedy, romantic, action, etc. You get the picture. So then we try to look at the third component, and that is the firm's products. And the firm's products, this are the ones that we are responsible for and that we have the ability to prepare, create, offer. And that might be this sort of a lineup here. One firm may offer multiple product classes, like automobiles sometimes. Another may specialize in just one or two. A motorcycle manufacturer, for example. Both transportation modes, but very distinctly different. Product item is what most manufacturers offer: sedans, minivans, and trucks and such. We think of these as the length of the line and the various types of products represented, the breadth of line. For example, Dodge has the Ram line of trucks and then various kinds of trucks. So we look then for insight, don't we? Market insight. We try to understand the way the market is structured and on through. While we provide guidelines here, the challenge is for the firm to develop a keen feel for the market and its nuances. How is the market changing? Is the change a fad or a trend? Talk to your salespeople, the frontline people. Go out and visit stores, watch customers. Understand these things, and you will then be able to provide reliable guidance as the firm delves into sources of different kinds of insight that may arise. So a market product, an evolution, and that becomes the second key focus area here. Product life cycle. We'll spend a little bit more time on that later, but essentially it's these stages in which a product is introduced over time, and then it reaches a point of which maturity, if you will, and we change the way that we manage these kinds of products based over the life cycle. We also have this idea of Porter's five forces. And the five forces have been established for quite some time. And basically, Porter said that he identified this model to identify the pressure firms face from different customers, new entrants competing with an improved product, or with a different product that may have adverse effect on firm's offering. Well, this frame has been around for a long time. Think about that, competing with an improved product, such as Uber competing with taxi cabs. It's not a taxi cab, but it is certainly a serious competitive threat. There's also pressure from suppliers, as the case might be when inputs become scarce, or from buyers when the market dynamics shift to a buyer's market. The pestle forces are an acronym, basically, that stand for political, economic, sociological, technological, legal, and environmental. And those are worthy of consideration in today's world because they have so much more effect on the way people think about us and our products. So here we have it, the whole concept of market insights, customer insights, and the whole framework. And let's look at customer insights now for a second. And see if we can't gain a deeper understanding as to how this works. Three general areas we look at: who are the customers, what do the customers need and want, and how do the customers buy? These are the questions that we tend to understand and we tend to win. Basically, it gives us a need to understand more about consumer behavior. So we switch then to another perspective of this, and that is how the actual purchase occurs. And we try to break that down into pre-purchase issues, purchase issues, and post-purchase issues so that we can study them and kind of isolate what drives and motivates the customer, what the customer identifies, a need or desire, and makes a purchase, then disposes of the product through the consumption process. That's the process we're trying to understand in a nutshell. This is a very interesting new dynamic. It's called the Consumer Decision Journey. It was developed by our friends at McKinsey & Company, and we'll dig into this deeper. But essentially, it takes us through far left, lower there, the trigger that creates the consumer need and moves all the way through over to the right to the moment of purchase. And then it doesn't stop there. It moves into this concept of the loyalty loop and the post-purchase experience.
When it comes to the consumer decision journey, very simply, the consumer considers what brands they're going to look for, assuming they've identified a felt need. They then decide which brands they're going to evaluate. They make their decision on the purchase. That's the moment of purchase. After that, they follow up with the experience that they're having with the brand. And that then leads to advocacy and or potentially loyalty. And that is where you have a loop. And if not, well, they go all the way back to, I wasn't happy, what I'm going to consider next time.
Major media, traditional media, still has a tremendous influence. But as you get into a phase of what we call active evaluation, this is where the consumer has decided they want to buy something and they're trying to now decide exactly what they do want to buy or which brand they want to buy. They don't wait and let the media come to them. They go out. And it is in that phase that what I call traditional more push advertising has less influence, and the more consumer outreach has much more.
It is the whole journey that we're talking about. The steps up until purchase, afterwards. I mean, we've done work, for example, in skin moisturizers, and 2/3 of the people who buy high-end skin moisturizers interact with a brand online after they buy a product. They fill out surveys, they post reviews, they check out they sign up for their Facebook feed, and this is all after they buy.
We're all marketers now. The premise behind that is really to say what matters is the customer's experience through and through. And social plays a role in this customer experience through and through. So it's very aligned with this notion that everyone needs to be thinking about what the customer's experience is, and everyone can or has a role to play in that experience.
Ask yourself, is the way I go about planning my investments, planning my spend in marketing and sales really matching the decision journey of my consumers or customers, of how people are really buying?
So, to review, an insight is the capacity to gain an accurate or deep intuitive understanding of a person, thing, or a phenomenon. Sometimes we think of it as the job that the customer, the consumer, is asking to be performed. Two key areas of insight, of course, market and customer. Market insights come from market structure, market and product evolution, industry forces, and environmental forces. Customer insights flow from understanding who they are, what they need and want, and how they buy and decide to buy. Finally, the consumer decision journey describes an interactive and consultative process that consumers move through, in which purchase is not the end, but an interim action that is then subject to further review. So next up, that will be market research. Market research is the planning, collection, and analysis of data relevant to marketing decision-making and the communication of the results of this analysis to a management. Yikes, that sounds like fun, huh? See you next time.